Now, the next question is, who do you think has helped you or can help you in taking financial decisions independently? Now, here you have to give a ranking. Suppose if you feel that it is going to be my children, then they will be the first rank for you. If you feel the next is going to be my spouse, and that becomes the second rank for you. Then me, my parents. So who do you think is the most important person who will help you, or who is helping you, or who has helped you in taking the financial decisions independently? Excellent. Good to see that. So, nice. Now, I'll just like to speak a bit here. It's very interesting to see that me is on top. So if there is anybody who is stopping me from making investment decisions, finance decisions, it is going to be me. The first person who stops me is me, myself, right? So the idea is to get over this kind of a fear or inhibition that we have, that we cannot do it. It should not be the case. Once you are able to take, see, all of us are educated. We are able to read, right? We all read English. We all understand English. And most of the markets across the world use English as a language in which they will publish their stock results, or the companies which will publish their results will definitely have English as one of the languages in most countries, including UAE. So it's only that we have to understand what we are reading. And that is where a little bit of finance understanding, if we have, we will be able to understand how the markets are working, which companies are doing better, and where, if at all, I have to invest in the market, in which companies I should invest, in which companies I should not invest. And that matrix also we will discuss about in the later slides. But the number one thing that we need to understand is it is me who stops me from taking these decisions independently. Second is, of course, my spouse. So if you have a boy child, please encourage him to encourage his spouse, right? Either today or tomorrow, to make the spouse so confident that she is able to take the finance decisions going forward, right? And of course, parents, as parents also, if we are able to instill that confidence in our own girl, in our own daughter, then definitely she is going to be, taking her own financial decisions independently going forward. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to stop at the mistake. It's never happened that the person who is investing has never lost money. It will not happen unless he is invested only in very, very safe instruments like FDs or postal deposits, which are not even going to give the returns which will match the inflation rates. So what happens now, just I think we all understand this, but just because we are on the topic, I'd like to touch upon the inflation, how it works. So suppose today you are buying a product at 100 rupees and the rate of inflation in the country is 100 it's at 6%. So the next year by this time, you will be buying the product at 106 rupees. Now, if you had invested your entire savings of say 200 rupees in FD, which gave you a 7% return year on year. So the 200 rupees that you invested today will give you 214 rupees only in the next year, right? So what you have earned is 14 rupees over a 200 rupee investment, whereas the inflation has taken away majority of it from you, because the inflation rate was at 6% and the FD rate was at 7%. So the net income that you earned was only 1%. So what happens is that we have to take into consideration those investments which will beat the inflation. And those investments will be majorly a market instrument like a stock or a mutual fund, which beat the inflation. Because what happens is these kind of instruments are, market driven. So what happens is they are, they might be a little bit more risky, but at the same time, these will help you to overcome the inflation rates at a much better, in a much better way than the normal FDs or postal deposits will do. And of course, when I'm talking of mutual funds, right, these are even less risky, because what happens is that the mutual fund manager is very much, qualified to take the decision in which stocks or in which company's equity he has to invest. So he will continuously adjust the fund to match certain rates or of returns that has been promised to the investor. Second thing I would like to mention is that world across, the stock markets are very, very protective of the retail investor like ourselves. Okay. They have a lot of securities or a lot of rules, regulations that companies have to follow when a retail investor is investing in them. Like, so when a company is going for an IPO or coming up with their public issue, there are a lot of regulations and rules and disclosures that the company has to mandatorily have before it can even list in the stock market. And why are these disclosures important? Because investors, smaller investors like you and me, can go read those disclosures, understand how the company has fared till now, and whether they will be able to meet our investment objective or not, and then invest in them. And suppose if we don't want to do that kind of a study, then we might, look at more into the mutual fund space, where the mutual fund manager is the one who is able to, decide which stock he will put the fund's money into, and adjust it, keep adjusting it, and he will keep on removing those stocks which are not faring well in the market, and he will keep on adding those stocks which are fared well in the market. So these kind of instruments are also available. So just that we should be aware of all this. And if we are aware of all this, we should be making those investment decisions very, very diligently. Then there is no issue in, if once we are aware of which, and this is all market information, which is available most of the times. In fact, in newspapers also, the net asset values are published for mutual funds. So it is a public knowledge, and that helps us to take these decisions in a very diligent manner. Now, the next question we'll move on to. Okay, very, very important. Do you make expense decisions at home? Most of us do that. Okay, sometimes. Fine. Is there anyone with a no? I don't think so. There will be, because I think what happens is most of the times it is we women who decide, right? That we are going to spend so much this month, and this much is the salary, and this much is the spending that I need to do. Now, we'll move on to the next related question to this. Do you have a systematic monthly budget plan that you follow? Okay. Interesting to see no's also. Okay. What if I told you that if we do not follow a systematic monthly budgeting plan, we are, I mean, this is a research-based evidence. There is a research-based evidence to this fact that I'm sharing with you all, that 15% of our expenses increase if we do not follow a systematic monthly budget plan. 1.5, that is. And if we were to save that amount, then would you follow it? Is the question. So, but of course, that we will, I'm not going to ask that question, but this is a research-based evidence. And that's how, that is how important it is to follow a budget plan. We have to always allocate a budget, and we have to ensure that once that budget allocated to a particular activity, once it is nearing zero, or once it is already zero, we should not spend more in that month towards that activity. So suppose, for example, in the next slide, we will see, I'm just changing the slide. Rupees 100 is transferred as salary. How shall I spend it? I've just given 4 options just for simplicity. Of course, there will be many such options when we do our actual budgeting, right? So in the screen, you will be seeing, numbers from 0 to 100 that you can enter against all these. The total of all of it has to be 100. So now you all have to enter how much of the 100 rupees would you spend in groceries, how much on entertainment, shopping, and eating out, how much on insurance and retirement planning, that is for the future, how much on saving, which is for the present. How would you like to split this expense? I'm seeing a lot of tension. A lot of tension on the people whom I am able to see on the screen. And okay, so 40% on groceries, 31. Okay, let it just settle down, then we will talk about it. Okay. Right. Okay. Savings is coming on second number. Great. Good to see this. And okay. It's going down now. Okay. So it is good to see this, that savings has, taken the second number within this audience. Many a times what happens is savings goes as a last. Insurance and retire planning, many a times what happens is it is a part of the salary packages that we generally get. So many a times it just gets deducted from the salary. We do not even realize it, but it may not be the case always. In private companies, maybe they do not have pension plans and all of that, in which case it is very, very important for all of us to make some insurance payments and have a retirement plan in place. Savings again is very, very important. And at the same time, I would say that entertainment, shopping, eating out also needs to be needs to have an allocated budget. But what happens is most of the times when this 20%, if I'm allocating 20 rupees to this budget head, if I spend that already within the month, I may still spend some more, I would not have that financial discipline if I had not done the budgeting at all in the first place, right? So the first thing that we all should promise ourselves is that we will make a budget, a monthly budget, and we will spend according to the monthly budget that we have made. So if there is a near zero situation, then we should not, spend any further in that budget head. That is one thing that we will all promise ourselves today. Now, coming to the savings part, you remember the 26% that we saved from the 100 rupees. How should we keep that? Shall we just keep it as idle money lying as cash or idle bank balances, or we should invest it and let the money also do some work? Yeah, we do work for money, let the money also work for us, and let it also, get doubled or whatever that our investment goal is. So most of us feel that, yeah, it should not be kept as cash. It should be invested. Now let us see what is our view on how we should invest this money. Now this is ₹100 savings from my previous savings. How should I reallocate this 100? Whether I should keep it, how much should I keep as free cash, how much as FDs, and how much as a market investment? 90% market investment, 5% FDs, and 5% free cash. Very good. That's a very good. Okay, 25% FDs. FD is going up. Good to see this. So quickly, I'll just mention. It is very good that this mix. I think this audience does not need financial skill lecture, Vasumati. They they are a very smart audience, right? So so the understanding is
theoretically we are all smart.
Yeah.
And I think your session is
like what you're asking, and we know what is the correct answer.
And I think we need the session to make this 24% and from FD and 25% from free cash to move to the market investment.
No, I'll tell you what happens is, yeah, free cash can be reduced more and kept as FDs. Why? Because FDs are pretty flexible. That is, unless you have invested in a tax saving FD where there is a lock-in period. And I'm not sure if UAE, if this is relevant to the UAE audience because there is no tax as such. But if it was in India, there are tax saving FDs in which there is a lock-in period of 5 years, in which case you cannot withdraw those FDs within the 5 years. Otherwise, the tax that you would have saved in the year of investment gets onloaded to you in the next year or the year in which you withdraw, right? So FDs, free cash should be reduced. FDs can be increased instead of free cash in hand, because what happens is if you keep free cash 35% or 34% of your savings as free cash, it is not earning you anything. And it is going to earn a very bare minimum amount of some 2 or 3% on the SB rate. And I think it is 0.25% in UAE, which is nothing, right? So it is not a good idea to keep free cash to the extent of 35% of our savings. We can always put it in FDs. And if it is not a tax saving FD, we can always, as and when the need arises, if there is any emergency requirement that comes, then we can always break the FDs. The loss will be only in terms of the interest that will happen. There is no principal loss as such. So that is one thing that maybe I would love to, all of you to take back as one of the learnings from this. Next question.
Yogita, why you have not included gold? Is investing in gold is not a good option?
It is not so, sister. But what happens again, see, firstly, that the options that I have given is something which will be which I have considered as very, very liquid investments. So gold, sometimes what happens, a lot of times what happens is that when people invest in gold, they buy jewelry. They do not buy coins and biscuits. They buy jewelry. When we buy jewelry, there is a lot of making charge that is attached to the making of that jewelry, because obviously we don't buy a normal chain, which is very plain and simple looking, which will be like only 5 dirhams per gram of making charges. We will go in for some intricate designs, and most of the money is going in the making charges. Unless you are investing in gold only from the investment perspective, it doesn't make sense to invest in gold, because the making charges are
But is it good?
It is very
to
good.
invest in gold?
It is
it
very good.
as good as investing in a market, or?
So now again, it will also depend in which country you are from, right? So for example, when I was in UAE, I did invest in gold. I did buy coins, and I kept it, but I faced a lot of issues when I was coming back, right? So, so we have to be mindful of all these, because if I had to declare, then there was customs, and then already a lot of my cost of investment was also towards paying the duties. So it will depend on which market you are in. There are certain things like gold bonds in India. I'm not sure if UAE has it, and that is also a sort of alternative to direct purchase of gold investments. What happens is the gold bonds are very, very liquid. So what happens? It is something like a paper investment only. It is not actual gold, but I can invest a portion every month in the gold bonds. And every month it goes on, it can be invested, and I can also sell it. If I am in deep trouble, I can just go and sell it. Now, what happens is, due to volatility, there is some loss. Maybe it will not be an actual loss. So what happens is, but notional loss can be there when you are investing in actual gold. So from the day we invest in gold to the day we actually redeem the gold, if you see that, there will be an increment for sure. But the day we redeem or we sell the gold, and the next day the price increases, then definitely you will feel the pinch, that, okay, I should have waited for one more day, because that's the kind of volatility that happens in the gold prices, right? At least in India, it has been extremely, extremely volatile in the recent days, So we have to be mindful of these things. And that also, brings us to one more
Yogita,
point.
while in this topic, there's a question. So I thought, there's a
Sure.
question of how are retirement and savings different, please? That's a question. That's a question from Janani Shrikant.
Retirement and savings.
Savings.
Retirement.
Because there was one question you asked, like, are you going to put in insurance and retirement, or are you going to put in savings? If you can
Right.
answer.
Right. So, retirement planning, when we do, I see what happens is, many times the employer himself will have a lot of schemes, like, they have gratuity schemes, they have pension schemes, they have provident fund schemes. These are some things that will get deducted from your salary automatically, even before the salary is credited to the account. But suppose if it is not happening, then there is a necessity to bifurcate our own salary into two heads. One is for the short-term needs, that I would term as an immediate saving. And one is for the long-term need, which I will, tap into only after I have stopped earning, or I have stopped, or my job is not there at that time when I have grown old. That is the retirement plan that I was talking of. So that is the difference that I mentioned. I hope the answer is clear.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So now, one thing that we all must also do is that we have to make our investment decisions. So we have to have a clear idea on what my investment objective is, like just now we spoke about. So if I were to invest in certain fund for a long-term basis, say for my retirement or something, then I would want that it should be very, very stable. So then I could look in at investing in a debt fund, which will only put money in debt of companies and not go in for equity of the companies. So one thing that we all must always have is, what are my financial goals and what is my investment objective? Once we write these down, then we can start planning how we are to invest, or how we are to, bifurcate our monthly income into these buckets. So these two things have to be very, very clear with us. Now, for me, because I am in a government job, I really need not worry about my retirement. What I have to worry about is, um, tomorrow, if there is some exigency that happens, how am I going to fund that? Right. So I am more interested in the shorter tenor cash that I may have to keep aside. So for me, that saving is more important than my retirement, because my employer is already taking away a chunk of my money before even giving me the salary and investing it in certain schemes, which is going to give me the pension. So these kind of things, investment objectives will be different for each individual. So when we hear somebody who is going on investing in the stock market and making a lot of money out of it, and he's a short-term player, and we might get carried away, but that should not happen, because my objective may be completely different from his objective, right? So we have to have our investment objective and our financial goals very much well defined, and then we have to proceed in that direction. We should not get carried away with what others in the market are doing, because that is not going to be something that is going to help my investment objectives or my financial goals to be met. Now, how do we invest? Now, a very quick question. Risk and return. Suppose if I was to sorry, I missed the previous one. I'll just speak about it now. Now, suppose if I was to, these are the kind of questions that we will also take into consideration while we are investing in any of the stocks or in any of the debt instruments that of a company, right? So whether we know the company very well, whether the need of the company is genuine in asking for that money, whether the ability of the company is there to pay back, whether the risk and rate and whether the risk is commensurate with the rate of return that the company is asking for. So these kind of things will also determine your investment objectives and should determine your investment objectives. So the first thing that everyone has voted for rightly is whether I know the person very well. So if we are doing a similar thing for a close relative or a friend, it is easier for us to apply that to a market investment. So that is how we should relate. Like, suppose if one company came to me, which is absolutely new, whether I would really like to invest in that company. So the answer would probably be no. And then, maybe the next of the questions will not follow at all. Secondly, what is the purpose? Now, if I know the person and I know the purpose, half the battle is won. Most of the times, the frauds that banks have faced is because the purpose of the money that they lent was not defined clearly. And that is where most of the bankers have been facing issues of, at least in India, the public sector banks are under so much of scanner from the CBIs and the whatnot. Like, you continuously get questioned specifically on loans, which did not have a defined purpose. So why was the money lent? And when we lent it, it is from, of course, the depositor's money. Now the depositor has lost his money, right? And maybe there was a bank run because of that. So who was ultimately responsible? The bank's decision was wrong, right? Why? Because the purpose of the lending was not known clearly. So once we know the company and once we know the purpose where our company is going to be employed or going, then most of the times, when we know the purpose, we will also know that, okay, he is doing this, he's borrowing this money so that he's setting a project out of which he's going to earn the money back. And that is how he's going to repay me. So once you know the purpose, ability to repay follows. And that is the kind of things that you will definitely, you should definitely analyze while doing investment, making investment decisions as well. So very simple, but often we don't pay attention to these things. But like I said, very much available on the market platforms as well. Now coming to this, the risk and return matrix, very, very important while we talk about investing in market. What is the, if the risk is high? So on the first scale, if you say the risk is at level 8, what is my return going to be? And if the risk is going to be at level 2, what is my return going to be? What is your expectation? So suppose I tell you that it is a very risky business, what is the return that you will expect? And if I tell you it is a very easy and simple business, what is the return that you should expect? Interesting. Is the question clear? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Yogita.
Okay. Oh. Okay, interesting. Actually, in this case, I'm seeing an inverted curve of the risk and return. Generally, risk and return is a straight curve. It has to go from here to here. It is a linear curve, right? Which means that if I tell you that today you invest in this Palana Dinka XYZ and tomorrow it will be double, you believe it or not, the risk is also going to be double. So it's always the case. When the risk is high, the returns will be high. When the risk is low, the returns will definitely be low. And that is why bank FDs, postal deposits, they give low rates. Why? Because there is no principal depletion whatsoever. So they will only invest in very, very safe avenues, which may not give you as high returns as much as you would want. But at the same time, because the risk is low, the returns are low. So this is a principle of investment. So again, coming back to the investment objective and financial goals, if your appetite is there to take higher risk, you will get higher returns. But because the risk is high, there will be times where you might feel that, even the principal depletion has started. Many times it does happen like that, right? So this is one thing to be kept in mind before making any of the investment decisions. So I think this is the last slide, and I hope I have done justice to what I was called here for. But just to take the pulse once again, now these are again some statements, and from strongly disagree to strongly agree, I would like you to rate yourselves on these parameters. I have always been taking financial decisions, was not aware of it though. I feel more confident in looking into finances now that I'm aware of my capabilities. I will start budgeting my expenses and following the budget. This is most important. I have saved 15% of yours if you do this. Okay. And the last, I will take up investing in small amounts, at least within this 1 year. Excellent. Great results. Good. Very nice. So I think I've done justice to the topic that Vasumati had given me. And that's it. Thank you so much. That will be my last slide.